There's a kind of strength that isn't loud, isn't obvious, and doesn't demand attention. It's quiet, hidden in soft smiles and polite laughter, and the way someone says, "I'm fine," even when every part of them feels like it's barely holding together. You've probably seen it in someone you know, or maybe it's you. These are the people who show up for others, who help without hesitation, who keep life moving smoothly around them, while quietly carrying the weight of their own struggles. They don't want to be a burden, so they learn to wear a mask that convinces the world, and sometimes even themselves, that everything is okay. Psychologists call this emotional suppression, a coping mechanism born from environments where showing vulnerability was unsafe, frowned upon, or dismissed. Many of these people learned early on that expressing pain could be punished or ignored, that crying might be met with indifference, and that asking for help could be seen as weakness. So they adapted, teaching themselves to hide what they felt, to replace collapse with composure, to replace raw truth with socially acceptable performances. It's strange, isn't it? We praise these individuals for being strong, for smiling through suffering, for staying steady when life feels overwhelming, but we rarely pause to consider the cost. Every suppressed tear, every unspoken frustration, every swallowed disappointment fractures a part of the self. Emotional masking becomes habitual, eventually shaping identity itself, until pretending is no longer an act, but a way of being. And yet, these people are not weak, they are survivors, using the only tools they have learned to navigate a world that doesn't always honor vulnerability. They regulate their internal world to control the external one, hoping that if they appear fine, perhaps everything else will remain intact. But suppression has consequences. Emotional fatigue creeps in, a quiet exhaustion not cured by sleep, the kind that seeps into every interaction and drains the capacity to feel fully. Over time, the mind becomes a battlefield, a constant tug-of-war between who they are and who they think they must be. They may deflect compliments, change the subject when things get too personal, laugh off pain with phrases like, "It's nothing," or "I'm just tired." Emotional dissonance sets in, the growing tension between outward composure and inward turmoil, making it harder to recognize oneself and to trust one's own feelings. Physiologically, this suppression elevates stress hormones, weakens immunity, and contributes to anxiety and depression. The irony is that the more they hide, the lonelier they feel. They crave connection but fear intimacy because revealing pain is risky, vulnerability feels unsafe, and allowing someone else to see the unguarded self requires courage that can seem impossible. Many of these quiet warriors attract relationships where they are the caretaker, the fixer, the listener, while rarely receiving the same care themselves. And yet, deep inside they long to be seen, not for their strength or composure, but for their humanity, for the imperfect, tender parts they protect so fiercely. In a society that prizes positivity over pain, achievement over authenticity, image over honesty, it's easy to understand why they continue to wear the mask. They've been conditioned to believe that showing weakness risks rejection, that prioritizing themselves is selfish, and that their emotions must remain contained to maintain love, acceptance, or even basic survival. The mask, for a time, offers safety and predictability, a semblance of control in an unpredictable world. But the cost accumulates quietly, invisibly, in the slow erosion of emotional clarity and connection. Over years, they may become numb, not because they are incapable of feeling, but because feeling has been complicated by constant performance. Joy becomes muted, laughter feels hollow, and moments that once felt alive seem distant or unreal. Yet to the outside world, they appear capable, steady, dependable, the person who always has it together. The tension between inner struggle and outer calm is exhausting, yet paradoxically, it's admired. Strength is praised, consistency rewarded, the ability to endure celebrated, while no one notices that the resilience may actually be suppression in disguise. And here lies the subtle cruelty. Pretending to be okay isolates them from themselves, just as it distances them from others. Emotional honesty, even small, incremental acts of truth with oneself, is the first step toward liberation. Admitting, even privately, that I'm not okay right now interrupts the cycle of masking and begins to reconnect the fragmented self. When they allow themselves to acknowledge their exhaustion, sadness, or uncertainty, the body relaxes, the mind quiets, and a sense of wholeness that pretending stole starts to reemerge. Psychologists describe this as integration, the bringing together of the masked self and the authentic self, the outwardly controlled and the inwardly vulnerable. This integration fosters emotional resilience far greater than the facade of constant composure, because it's built on truth rather than performance. Real strength emerges not in enduring endlessly, but in allowing oneself to feel fully, to be seen without perfection, to stop fighting the natural ebb and flow of emotion. The courage required to smile through pain is significant, but the courage to admit pain, to embrace imperfection, to rest without guilt, transforms survival into healing. Even small gestures, a candid answer to "How are you?" or allowing oneself to cry without apology, are revolutionary acts of self-kindness that gradually rebuild trust in oneself and with the world. Vulnerability, paradoxically, draws people closer rather than pushing them away, fostering authentic connections that masks can never achieve. Authenticity creates gravity, attracting those who can meet the person where they truly are. In contrast, masks, no matter how convincing, generate distance, invisibility, and quiet suffering. The real work of healing lies not in grand gestures, but in consistently allowing oneself to exist without pretense, to feel without suppression, to rest without shame, and to acknowledge emotions that have been long denied. Slowly the mask fades, and the world, if it can, adjusts to the person behind it. In this process, even ordinary experiences regain significance. Sunlight on the floor, the laughter of a friend, a quiet cup of tea. These small details, once unnoticed, begin to anchor presence and reconnection to self. Pretending to be okay may have provided temporary survival, but choosing honesty nurtures life, vitality, and authentic relationships. Over time, the person learns that being okay is not the goal. Being whole, being aligned with oneself is. They learn that internal peace does not require perfection, that emotional honesty is not weakness, and that showing vulnerability is a form of strength, not defeat. In learning to stop performing, they cultivate a life where rest, sadness, joy, and authenticity coexist, where presence replaces performance, and where the quiet liberation of being fully human becomes possible. Ultimately, the people who cease pretending to be okay discover that they don't just survive, they begin to live. They attract genuine connection, experience true self-trust, and reclaim joy that was long subdued under the weight of obligation and fear. The goal shifts from masking pain to embracing reality, the full spectrum of emotions, the depth of humanity, the beauty of imperfection. Peace is not found in perfection or unbroken composure. It is found in the courage to exist as oneself, in the honesty to acknowledge struggle, and in the freedom that comes when the mask is no longer necessary. And that, in the end, is the quiet, unshakable strength of those who stop pretending, the profound resilience born not from hiding, but from embracing the truth of who they are, allowing themselves to be seen, felt, and ultimately healed.